The river is a powerful analogy for the process of letting go of ourselves to allow the Tao to make use of us. Actually, the river analogy builds the whole framework of Taoist philosophical and metaphysical understanding. This simple yet at first hard to comprehend river analogy is the natural science for understanding life and our small part of it. The secret science of the river analogy is written into the title of the Dao De Qing. Orientalist and sinologist Arthur Waley translated the title of the Dao De Qing as the way and its power. The way is obviously the Tao, but it is the power of the Tao aspect many people leave aside or don't understand thoroughly. The De of the Dao De Qing is the power or virtue of the Tao. But the De resides in us. It is up to us to reorient our way of life to accord with the Tao. Then and only then will we experience its power and virtue. De, then, is extremely important for understanding the river analogy. The river analogy will show you what is necessary to align with the Tao and is as follows. The river of the Tao is always flowing, a constant of life. We are all in that river. But most of us are either holding onto the banks of the river or fighting the current in trying to swim against it. Both attitudes are problematic and destructive. The problem with holding onto the banks of the river is you are stranded. You are not going anywhere and live in constant fear of being swept away. Likewise, the problem with swimming against the current is you'll eventually get tired and drown. For both positions, the only realistic action is to let go and trust the river. Once we let go, we discover that the river's power becomes our power. We might not know where the river is taking us, but we are not exhausted in fighting the process, which allows us to develop a deep trust in the process or river. You flow with the river as one with it. Before I dive into flowing with the river, we need to understand this analogy. The river itself is the Tao. Holding onto the banks of the river is a representation of how we hold on to certain things and experiences in our lives that create unnecessary attachment to things, people, and experiences. This attachment blocks you from living your life naturally. Most people have created a certain life for themselves that has boundaries and essentially is stagnant. We are afraid to let go because of an ingrained fear of uncertainty that has developed due to the illusion that we've created certainty or safety in our lives. Any form of uncertainty in life is avoided by clinging to our worldviews, the banks in the river, so we worry about them getting thrown upside down. Similarly, swimming against the river represents a somewhat identical problem. The current of the river is always guiding our lives, whether we like it or not. We try to swim against the current when we don't like the direction our life is going. We try to control our life as it is in this very moment. But the river's current is constant. Any attempt to fight this current will lead to suffering, and this is what happens on an individual level. We often get ourselves in trouble because we are fighting the circumstances of life. The more we fight, the more we suffer. Unfortunately, many people are so accustomed to fighting the river for control of their lives that they eventually drown from complete exhaustion and burnout. These control issues are an affliction many people suffer from. We are under the illusion that we are the masters of our fate, but nothing could be further from the truth. We might be able to control a small fragment of our lives, but not in its totality. The river governs our lives and has always done so. We are not in control. That very statement erodes fear in many who are still holding on. But when you understand the river of the Tao is genuinely guiding your life, you naturally let go of the will you thought you needed to gain the kind of control you probably always wanted, but never knew existed. This may sound paradoxical to those geared toward the external world of force and control, but this is the way of the Tao, the way of nature. This paradoxical force is the core principle of the river analogy, because when you stop fighting the current, the river's power becomes your power. This is the power and virtue of the Tao. In letting go, you flow with the Tao, allowing its current to guide your life without resistance. As the power of lightning follows the path of least resistance, so does the Tao. And if your mind is full of beliefs, opinions, and identity, then you are resistant to the flow of Tao. When we completely let go, we harness De. Without force and control, the Tao can make use of you. This trust in the effortless flow of the river is the fundamental non-doing component of Wu Wei. As chapter 37 of the Dao De Qing states, Tao abides in non-action, yet nothing is left undone. In letting go of ourselves, the Tao does all without our sense of identity there at all. This is the real sense of effortless action, Wu Wei. No planning or contriving is needed for the Tao to run its course. It does all without our input. De demonstrates how the Tao does us, essentially how it manifests in our life through Wu Wei. The Tai Chi movement from the nameless source, Wu Chi, to the 10,000 things is De. That is the river, the stream of conscious energy constantly flowing through us. We are created to receive this energy radiating from the ultimate reality of the Tao consciously so that we can manifest it through our actions. But the irony is that we need to reverse our trajectory and return to the source to open ourselves for the Tao to move through us. This is the mutual motion of the bidirectional movement of Tai Chi. As Jacob Needleman explains in the introduction and notes to the Dao De Qing, thus, the movement that leads back to the source is also the opening toward great action in outer life. Virtue is an opening rather than a doing. The movement of return is equivalent to ceasing fighting the current to allow yourself to be one with the power of the river. This is the human virtue of the non-virtuous, not some self-righteous moralistic attitude. In brief, morality is built on social rules and values that differ between cultures and nations. These differing moral beliefs are inculcated in an individual that creates an ego with an ingrained agenda based on those moral beliefs. This process warps our nature. We become a social construct of society, but we need to remember that society is man-made. Socialization is superimposed on our minds, which in turn acts as a blockage to the fundamental forces of Tao. To flow with the river of Tao, to harness the virtue of De, means we need to release these social constraints that fool us into fighting the river. A human being, like any other organism, is designed as a reflection of the Tao. However, humans are innately constricted due to our higher state of intelligence, which can create all sorts of strange ways of thinking and beliefs that disconnect us from the way of nature. The river analogy teaches us that we are a pure expression of Tao, not in what we do, but rather in who we are. Or more correctly, subtract the who, and instead, we are a pure expression of Tao as we are.